Hey guys, welcome back. We're back at it. I had a little bit of a rough end to my last week. Got a little sick, so we're playing catch up a little bit. This video was supposed to happen last week. It's happening now. We're going to talk about a Veriswap and their recent change that's been made. I guess kind of a suggestion. Again, it's just my thought process that I gave on this. I don't know if they listened to my video. I don't know if I wasn't in talks with them, so maybe the general consensus of everyone that was commenting, everyone that was talking about it, was the fact that they do need to verify things. If they're going to call themselves very anything, they better be verifying. So I think it's still a little bit of a mess, and it could be that they're working out the bumps. I think that it still might be a viable option for a lot of people, if even if the fees are 4%. I'll make some suggestions. I think that might be a little bit high. I'm sure anyone that uses the platform wants it as low as possible, but they also want to be covered in case they get sent something fake. And they need to be more specific about what it's going to cover, how it's going to cover, if it's covering certain cards, because and it could be that they just haven't updated it yet. It's only been a few days, I think, since this was implemented. So starting on 5/17, 3 days ago, Veraswap will start authenticating Pokemon RAWs/slabs and charging a fee of 4%. So yeah, the website, the fact doesn't quite, they need to lay it out plain and simple. Here's what you're covered on. If we oopsie doopsie and we send something along that is messed up, we're going to cover your buns. But we'll get into that. We're also going to get into, I know everyone is probably sick and tired of the GameStop buying your Pokemon cards for a fraction of the price type videos. But I thought it was interesting that there is I think it was PokeKid that posted it in the Discord. There's like a checklist or like a process for authenticating cards, which is, it's kind of right on it's right on the head here. So it's maybe Veriswap can take a page out of the old GameStop book and make sure that the trading cards that are getting swapped are actually the real deal. We'll still see how the whole GameStop thing plays out. My guess is it's just going to be like people that just want a quick buck are going to get hosed a little bit. They're going to get a fraction of the money that they could have got if they just sold the items. Some items seem not that way, but we're not going to get into that too much. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of exploit. Someone's going to find the card that's entered wrong, or the card that like dropped in price dramatically. GameStop's going to pay more than market for it, depending on how their pricing works, and it's going to be a frenzy. A frenzy out there for anyone that actually owns it. Again, you'd have to have copies of the graded card in whatever condition is applicable, but here's a couple videos that we put out. If you haven't seen these ones, basically what happened was the big whole thing that stemmed the whole conversation of why is Veriswap not verifying if they're called Veriswap was this Rayquaza. It was a PSA 10 Rayquaza Gold Star Japanese that it was very fake. It got sent to the one of the traders. So we haven't heard exactly what happened to the person that was trading it. Again, I pointed out some flaws in the system, and basically that it was a little bit of again, most users probably not going to be trying to pull anything over on people, but it is a little bit of a safe haven for scammers. So anytime you can be anonymous, anytime you can hide behind an account, anytime you can trade through someone else, sell through someone else. We've seen it all the time with the auction companies. You get these sketch dog supremes who are typically would be called out or be spotted if they were selling on their own account under their own name, if they didn't make a new account, which is also possible, their own eBay account. But if you're trading anonymously, if anyone that's altering cards, trying to sell fake stuff, trying to scam, they're probably going to pump that stuff through someone else just to add a layering. Who would have thought? Those damn criminals to put an extra layer so you can't track it back to them. But it usually gets tracked back to them. Now, that's where I think the auction companies need to be a little bit more prudent. They need to be on the ball, if you will, and not Pikachu on the ball. They need to be on the ball, making sure that the scams don't happen. I think it's even if it hurts their bottom line, whether it's grading companies, whether it's these trading platforms or trading platform, any of this stuff, it shows. Choose the one and praise the one that is doing the right thing, that is preventing the wrongdoers from squeezing stuff through here. So that is some serious fraud that's going on there when you're sending fake cards through a system like this. it made it through. And I don't know exactly what the outcome was. Maybe we'll find out someday. Now, we had some other issues where raw cards were not basically as described. It tells you, again, a lot of their like terms and conditions, a lot of their FAQ, a lot of like what they have in terms of like rules and regulations on the website are not, they need to be black and white. And again, if there's any loophole in it whatsoever that people can exploit, they're going to. Here we had and so I believe this one was resolved, that there was either paid out or that the trader that got scammed was compensated, to my knowledge. This one here with the Celebi was not. So that's the thing too. So if Veriswap is going to change their business model, do they go back and retroactively like fix everything, clear the air, clean up the platform, right the people that were wronged a little bit earlier, kind of whatever that takes. Maybe whether you take the card back, you give them the dollar value for it, whatever that might be, something that's fair, something that they agree to. I mean, I don't think they need like a PSA 10 Celebi here, but this essentially was a PSA 10. The trader was kind of dishonest in the fact that they didn't show that there was a giant crease in the middle of it. They did say that it was an approximate 8, and they didn't want to reslab it because oopsie doopsie, why would I reslab something that was going to get a 10 again? But again, if you're gonna, you gotta be honest with what you're doing on there, what you're trading. If you're not showing damage, this is a quick check, and I don't even know if the fees kind of warrant this end of it. Again, they're gonna have to play around with it and see like what dollar value is actually worth what they're doing. Now, before we move on, thank you guys very much for doing the old, hitting the old link tree, the Rattle link tree. If you go on there, you can support the channel for free by clicking on the affiliate links before you shop for the things you shop for anyway, your eBays, your Amazons, all that fun stuff. You got lots of discount codes for some awesome shops here, so save yourself some money while you support the channel. Much appreciated, everyone that's been doing that. You've been keeping me moving over here, regardless of the slap lawsuit. We're kicking butt regardless. The code Rattle5 on the old Trollin' Toad and the old PSA Pikachu coming in clutch for the opening on Friday. We're going to do a mega extreme opening. We'll do 1,000 packs of Twilight Masquerade. And I couldn't have done it without them. We're in budget mode at the moment, again, with the lawsuit stuff. So I wanted to be very certain that I was able to break even on that content. So thank you very much to them. Thank you very much to Card Market. If you're from Europe, you should be shopping on there. But if you're not from Europe, maybe you want to make a European friend and do some trading of your own. If you want that regional variant stuff, that's what I use it for. Sick. All right, now that we got that out of the way, we can go on to the Veraswap FAQ. And it could be that this isn't updated or isn't entirely updated, but there's a few sections here where I wanted to go in and kind of point out that it seems like it's inconsistent. So it seems like Pokemon cards are, maybe they're testing this out with Pokemon cards only, but you probably want to do it with everything, I would think, is probably the way to go. So we're going from 1.5% fees on each, charge 1.5 of the combined trade value for trades under 100. So I guess it was 1.5 split, but now it's 8 split, 4%. I'm not sure. They're a little bit all over the place with this. Wait, no, these are 2% of the total trade. And then we have Pokemon, which is now more expensive, 4%. So I don't know if they're only concerned about the Pokemon stuff. I got bad news for you if you think that there's only going to be fraudsters in Pokemon. There are more in the old sports card world. A lot of that transferred over, as we've seen. Some of the people that were doing some sketchy shit in the old sports card world moved into Pokemon once it became, worth doing so. Or once they got run out of the sports card hobby, or a little bit more identified. Maybe they needed to diverse their scamming portfolio. Then they slipped their way on over in the old pandemic, especially. We can thank that whole scenario for all the new scammerinis that we've seen. Well, I guess some of them weren't in sports cards. Some of them were just professional athletes, I guess, that all of a sudden decided, hey, let's do some sketchy shit. So we have what happens if you get scammed. All transactions are verified by Veriswap, and Veriswap will refund all transaction and shipping fees if transaction does not pass verification. So this sounds like everything and all, you're covered no matter what, which I think is what should happen. If it's something that's swapped, if it's something that's damaged, if it's not as described in any way, I think anything that can be considered a scam. Now they're going to be very careful here because certain stuff and the scenarios, you're going to have weird oddball scenarios that you need to be prepared for. If there's a fake card inside a PSA case and someone scammed that way, but it wasn't really maybe it was a partial scam. Maybe they just wanted to dump it because they didn't want to deal with like the PSA authenticity guarantee, and they were just dumping it on here to trade it, and then oh, oopsie doopsie, you can deal with it, or something that was like misgraded, like egregiously misgraded. Again, it probably, that all comes down to like prep of the trade itself, making sure that the images match the card, making sure that like if there's not scans available, if it's an older card from PSA or something like that, and there's no scans online, that there are very well documented photos of the card that is being traded, they can be checked with the whole Veriswap thing. So I don't think it's going to take very much time. Again, you might have to have somebody you need somebody that knows what they're looking at here. I don't know if you can get away with like the GameStop check. The Rayquaza should have been like something, if anyone that knows Pokemon cards, they probably, and then again, are you going to have to pay that person that knows the difference between that fake Rayquaza and a real Rayquaza, a real PSA slab, a little bit more? Or are they going to have to be trained on like how to identify a fake slab? I think so. I think most people that are like very in tune with Pokemon cards, with trading cards or sports cards or whatever, that have seen enough graded cards, they should know what the fake case looks like. If somebody's new, they might not, but you're going to have new people that are not going to be able to identify that. And then also, if you get scammed, how long do you have to like realize you got scammed? Is it delivered in like 2 days later if you didn't report it or anything? You didn't open it, it went to your PO box. So there's a lot of like terms that I feel are missing here that maybe need to be hashed out. Maybe that's stuff that they need to discuss and change. I also think that maybe as a reward for people using the platform, maybe your fees decrease based on how many transactions you've done. Like you obviously can't have it so that people are just exploiting and like doing like dollar trades back and forth to like get their points up. Maybe it's dollar value based transaction and dollar value based, that maybe you can bring it down from 4% to 3%, because if there's somebody reputable on there, the risk of them scamming you later on after they've done a $500,000 in trades or $1 million in trades or something like that, I think rewarding those people for using your platform and being a return customer is probably a good idea. Again, this is not my business. I have never run a trading business of any kind, but this is just kind of things that I would kind of look for. Again, I do like trading, but typically I'm not looking for like the high end graded cards. If I am buying graded cards, they're typically like 8s or 9s that are just a really good deal that I can crack out for the binder. I do think there is a special thing that a lot of people are missing out on with trades, but I think those trades are more not exciting. They're more meaningful. They feel better when you're trading with like a friend. You both trade each other for something. Maybe you don't even care if the value is exactly the same. It's like a trade. You know that you got that card from that person. When you're flipping through your collection or your binder or whatever it might be, you're like, oh yeah, I got that from Johnny Jimbo, my best bud, who lives on the other side of the world. We traded. I traded him this. You got that kind of thing. But I think like the making friends part is kind of taken out of it here. So it's a different customer base. Maybe it's more people that are looking to, and again, you can still save, because a lot of the time, a lot of the people will say just sell your card and then buy one. But if you're doing that and you're doing it on eBay, if you're doing it in like an effective manner, then you don't have to worry about like the Instagram G-Baller 69s that are not going to ship something, that are going to send you just a box full of nothing, cardboard. Yeah, maybe you can avoid that with the eBay fees. But then the eBay fees, if there's 13% on you selling an item, and then there's 13% on buying the item, and then there's the tax on top of that, depending where you are, what you're doing with that item. I can see how if somebody just, maybe they got a good deal on something and they want to trade it for something they actually want. They just came across a good deal. They picked it up at the time. Maybe it was part of their collection at the time, and they kind of want to they want to move it. I'm not aware of like how long or difficult it is to actually move or trade things. Or maybe they want like maybe they got two of the same thing. Maybe they found a better condition copy of something, so they want to trade the extra copy for something else they actually need for their collection or want. So I'm sure there's lots of motivations. Maybe they're just down there looking for deals. They're trying to get something that's more expensive. Maybe get lucky. I'm not sure how much time and effort goes into that. But I can see that there's probably people that don't consider that and don't really care because maybe it's fun. Could be. Does Veriswap authenticate raw cards? So they used to not, but apparently now they do in some of the writing, but not all of the writing. Here it still says Veriswap does not authenticate raw cards except in the case of Pokemon cards. So I guess, again, it might be the rollout with Pokemon cards. I do think they need to do like the authentication with everything, whether they need separate employee or employees in order to do each category and have it marked on the box or the shipping label or whatever is provided. So that you can effectively kind of sort that out and have it going to the correct people that are authenticating it. Authenticating patches and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can get into that is like super niche, and it's gonna come through the doors. Like people are gonna trade it. It's gonna exist. There's like, if it's Magic the Gathering, there's like 17 different versions of most of these modern chase cards and collector's editions and different foils and different borders and different extended wiener dog extremes. It's difficult. I mean, it's difficult for like a game store or like a card shop to actually like keep track of all of this stuff. So yeah, you're gonna have to have like somebody that knows what they're doing in each of these individual areas. But yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction. We have an E4 thread here by Triple. I assume this is the same Triple, although he's got a Grimer on his avatar here instead of the Victini. So you know what? Maybe we're gonna assume it's the same Triple from the Discord. Veriswap, which is a middleman platform, started to increase their rates from 1.5 or 1.25 for trades over 10K, 4% per person, or 8% of the entire transaction. I think 4% is still good, but it can probably be better. And maybe they start out higher, maybe they bring it down. This 1.5 or 1.25%, like if they're backing up transactions, seems like, I mean, clearly if they're having trouble with it, this or need to not verify or not like protect the customer, protect the traders, is not high enough for them to justify that. And it could be this could be like a measure of like, depending on how expensive the trades are, the average trade price or value, they're making more or less money per transaction, and it requires probably the same amount of work. I mean, it gets scary once you get into the old Rayquaza Gold Star PSA 10s, but why are they increasing the rates? To ensure authenticity of graded / Pokemon cards, when that was the whole point in the first place, which they completely missed the mark. So I think they need to be more clear about that. But again, if they're starting out and maybe you're probably playing with fire a little bit, if you're just kind of like you're swapping stuff, you don't think there's always going to be people where there's money involved. There's always going to be someone looking to con. They're gonna try to scam. They're gonna use it. They're gonna test it. They're going to find a way to break the rules, and it's going to look bad on the company itself. If you can't tell that the Rayquaza is fake, yes, it is still mainly the fault of the scammer that sent that thing in, provided they knew. I mean, I don't think you accidentally send a fake Rayquaza in like that, but I'm sure they can hash that out. Also, I guess on the Veriswap end of things, maybe they can reduce the fees if they're able to go after the individuals. I mean, there's cost involved with going after those individuals, whether or not you have to file lawsuits against the people that are trying to commit fraud through your platform because it's costing that business money. Whether or not law enforcement, even if you're just contacting law enforcement to let them know about it, once it gets up into the like $10,000 plus range, then you're getting into sketchy federal level stuff, depending on what state they're in, there's a lot going on. If they're in a different country, all of that stuff. So that's all stuff they need to figure out on the back end, figure out what works for them, figure out what it costs. and figure out like I guess you gotta play out every scenario and have a plan before it happens, because people are there. If there's a way, they will scam. What is everyone's opinion on Veriswap, and do you think Veriswap will become a big name for TCG trading, or will it be gone in the next 5 years? It's hard to say. I mean, they got their work cut out for them. There's a lot of big dogs that can do some very nasty things. Talking PSA vaults, so eBay vault turned PSA vault. Talking like PWCC vault. If all of a sudden, I mean, those items are already verified, I assume, or at least to some extent. We've seen some stuff pop up that ends up being like altered or anything like that. Then PWCC, and I haven't seen anything recently, but in previous years would reach out to the grading company to find out about it. But then if the grading company doesn't want to pay out on the item, if it's like Beckett, or if it's even some of the PSA stuff, it's just like, here's before and after pictures, here's the card, it was altered, that kind of thing. So there's also that. If that's the thing too, does Veriswap, are they making the overarching decision? Are they saying, hey, yeah, this is altered, I saw it on blowout forums? I mean, if they start doing the sports card end of things, the verification on the sports cards, if there's a thread on blowout that shows that there's pieces of that card that have been trimmed off by an Evan Mathis or something, is that grounds for like the transaction being a scam? If it wasn't deactivated by whichever company, if the card has been altered, even though it hasn't been deactivated by PSA, are they going to put the blame on PSA, or are they just going to cover it? So that's the thing too. And then the struggle with PSA, does Veriswap have to like get a relationship with PSA that it's less of a hassle for them to have this card? If they for some reason can't get the original owner's card back to them, that traded for something that ends up being altered or fake or whatever, is who's gonna have the headache involved with, hey, PSA, can you pay out on this? I mean, I guess you'd have the dollar value that would be required, but then I don't even know if the PSA guarantee would cover it because it's a trade, or if it would be the previous sale. So that's there's a ton that they need to figure out, that they need to work out in order to even to have this thing kind of like solid. And I think the customers need to know, because if not, and someone gets shafted in like some little loophole, scammers will find the loophole and they don't get their money back, or they're not able to get their money back, but they were paying fees the whole time. Like, they're going to be, is it a no questions asked is kind of what they need to know. BFM says their goal as a company is to find that most people would pay before they stop using their service. At 1.5%, it's possible they weren't even profitable and just wanted to attract customers. Also, could be a thing. With a lot of these companies, I don't know Veriswap. I've never talked to them. I don't know what their intentions are. But some of these companies, when they start up, when they're building up, when they're doing what they're doing, they might be just trying to build a user base, and fingers crossed, butthole clenched, that somebody buys their company. I don't know if that's the case. No idea, but that is also a possibility. Triple says, yeah, I'm sure, but they are increasing it to add authentication verification, LOL, where they're just looking at cards and went, yeah, this looks kind of like the picture, it's good, to now actually making sure people send the right cards. So probably, I mean, I guess they probably just weren't careful enough with it. You have to assume that they were at least checking the box. They're not going to like forward something along that's not even a card. I've never used the service, so I don't know if they like repack everything, or if it's like packed into the same box that was sent into them. That'd be interesting as well. Again, I haven't used the service, so there's a lot involved. We have EV Team, who says that fake Rayquaza GS that went through killed their brand. Maybe the statement is doing damage control. Sounds like they didn't have any guarantees before. So I think they did good on the Rayquaza by fixing it. If all is fixed, if the customers paid out, or they got what they needed, whether it was a replacement for the trade they were supposed to receive, or payment in terms of what the card was worth, I think that's the best thing they could do. It's going to happen. It's going to get through. I think my biggest criticism was the fact that it wasn't black and white. It wasn't outlined what would happen, what was going on. You didn't know. They didn't have to. The didn't have to thing is like a stage worse than like a PSA guarantee where you got to fight with them to get a refund. It's right there. Whalemer, wise Whalemer saying, and now they just need to find someone who's good at it. True. And you know what? Depending on, you can go through a lot of that stuff. It's got to be a lot faster than like grading cards. Does somebody want to sit there and do that all day? I mean, it might be actually more, or if even more entertaining. Someone that wants to see a lot of cards, and has the expertise to do it, depending on what they're paying, depending on how many you can pump through there, and still remain, like you can't miss. If you miss, it can cost a lot of money. So there's a lot on the line there. I haven't really heard about them at all. Is it mostly used for trading? It sure is. So it's supposed to be a safe way to trade, and I'm sure it is for the most part. Again, it's like most transactions, most stuff that's going on, any platform, it's going to be pretty safe. I mean, you have certain areas that are just real sketchy. You're like Instagrams, you got to be very careful. I get messages all the time. They're like, hey, I see you follow this guy, or hey, there's like some random Instagram, like, hey, do you know this guy? No, I have no idea. I haven't been able to check a lot of those messages recently. If you guys ever need, if there's anything that's like super urgent, super scammy, needs attention immediately, join the Discord, at me in the old general chat. Say, hey, this is like a quick rundown of what's going on. Check your DMs. Discord DMs are also backed up, but that's the place usually. What do we got? TCG Main. And yes, we are going to get to the GameStop checks here in a minute. TCG Main says, I've made a few deals on there, but nothing crazy value because I didn't entirely trust them. Honestly, I've sold as much as I've traded, and I would still be totally happy to pay the 4% fees for that. Yeah, I think if you're finding like the good trades, the good deals, like 4%, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's going to require more work than just like selling a card from market value or below market value and then buying what you want at market value, or looking for a deal and getting it slightly below market value. But that's the trade-off, is like you can save some money. You won't save as much money if it's 4% instead of 1.5, but currently Veriswap makes it super easy to get trade credits. So I'll use them if that remains the case. That said, it's still very challenging to find someone to make a deal with anyway, and their shipping fees make it only worth it if the trade is more than 500 on each side. Oh yeah, it shows shipping fees. So that's difficult too, because it's gonna, in terms of shipping, you're doubling your shipping cost, right? Essentially, maybe not doubling, but it's gonna be more. If you got a label, if you got to send it to somewhere, if it's got to get sent again, it's kind of like the middleman kind of scenario. There's also more risk in terms of something getting lost with multiple shipments, something getting stolen with multiple shipments, that sort of thing. I don't know if there's branding on the box or anything like that, but you got to be careful with that. Tampering, yeah, even people from like the mail delivery companies, government or otherwise, there's been stuff that's been stolen out of boxes. So that can happen too. I think a lot of that was already covered because it was in under like the shipping insurance. The Crystal Celebi recently didn't do them favor. So that's the thing too, is like you pretty much have to avoid the raw cards if they're not going to back the raw cards in terms of like being as described. You got to show the damage. If there's damage there that wasn't shown in the photos, it should be like put on pause, which is going to cost more money. PWCC is one vault trade feature away from putting this company out of business. So if anyone hasn't seen it, with PWCC, you can transfer items. So like they're not far away from like trading. If you can send, you have to put in like a billion digit letters and numbers password in order to like send it to someone else's vault. But you can do so very easily. If they implemented a trade process there and it didn't cost anything, that was just, they just ate the associated cost in order to have more people putting stuff in the PWCC vault. more people putting stuff in an eBay vault or the PSA vault as it will be now, then like they can do some damage. I'm also a little bit surprised that at least it's not advertised, but that more of the consignment companies and maybe where if they have reduced business because of like or reduced workflow because of the PSA vault stuff, if that rolls out and it starts kind of pulling away from that because people are listing their own cards, maybe a kind of like a middleman service, whether it's for transactions or whether it's for trades and stuff like that. I'm surprised that they don't do that as well because they're already set up to receive this stuff. So maybe that's an idea for the people that are consigning items. If you need to generate some work, generate another additional service that is pretty similar to what you're doing. You're just not listing stuff instead. You're instead either middlemaning. With a lot of those large deals or trades and stuff like that, you can find a middleman. And if they're depending on what the scenario is, paying them might be similar to this. So this is kind of like a middleman without having to hassle someone essentially for the trades. So I'm sure there's trades that happen on Veriswap that like people make arrangements for outside of Veriswap beforehand, but then just to make sure that no one gets scammed. Although I don't know, like people love to avoid fees. They will the people I've seen, shout out to Starks, selling on Mercari instead of eBay because it reduced fees, but the eyeballs that you get on eBay make it worth it. So sometimes fees, even though they might seem bad, are a good thing. And especially if you're trying to save like time and effort and headaches involved with like scams and all that kind of crap. All right, we got the graded collectible checklist here from GameStop. PokeKid posted this bad boy in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. We got graded collectible checklist, the holder. So I'm a little bit confused here. I'm wondering if, because for anyone that isn't aware, this confuses people all the time, so it wouldn't surprise me if it confuses GameStop employees as well. But the PSA holders have changed many times. How many times off the top of my head, I have no idea. Those changes vary all over the place. I'm kind of surprised that they don't have at least a general guide of like each era and what features to look for to make sure that it's not counterfeit, that kind of thing. I mean, clearly they don't want to go into too much detail and have some kind of trade secrets so that the counterfeits don't get too good. But typically, even the best counterfeits, if you're looking at fake cases, are just direct molds of a real PSA case. We haven't seen that with the other grading companies yet because typically if you're trying to fake something, you're trying to make money, you're going to go with whatever's going to be the most expensive, the most accessible, and whatever. So typically it's a mold of a real PSA case. And for that reason, a lot of the details are kind of lost in that mold. You're going to have like the inside edges are not sharp. We've seen it with the Zhao fake cases. Those are pretty good. But there are details about them that you should know about. You should see. If you haven't seen the Zhao videos and you're worried about getting fake cases, again, this is not going to be your average purchase of like a PSA 7 black and white hollow or something like that it's probably not going to be in a fake case, but it's good to know this stuff regardless. I don't want to make anyone like paranoid, but just be on the lookout. If you're buying stuff that's more expensive, as it gets more expensive, be more careful, and be on the lookout for fake stuff. Know what you're looking at. Be comfortable being able to spot real, fake, buy with buyer protection whenever you can, wherever you can. And don't fall for it's almost always the too good to be true is where the scams can be found. Now, checklist, holder, injection spot. Run your finger along the bottom of the case. You will feel a bump in the center. If the case is completely smooth, reject the trade. So that's just the little injection spot, the little nipple on the bottom. We got ticks. Hold the case flat and look at it from the side. On the left and right sides of the case, you will see 3 ticks or small lines. Do I have a PSA case? We got the PSA case. We can be GameStop employees. So we can see, I mean, I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, the 3 ticks. With the like CGC ones, there's like the teeth that you can definitely see. But yeah, there's the ticks there. It's hard to see, but they're there. I don't know if I've ever used that as a way to determine whether a case was real or not. Maybe they need to go into more detail about like I feel like they almost need to show them some fake cases to know like what to look for. Like the inside edges here, like where the card is being held in. Like if those are not sharp, like crystal super mega 90-degree angle, cut your dick off sharp, then you got something to worry about. Part numbers, inspect the bottom right corner for a part number. If this is absent or does not read 1T, 27, or 21, reject the trade. So you can see there, it's like a backwards 21 down in the bottom. I'm not set up for this. That was not my intention. You guys can take a look at one. And that's the thing too. Like if you're worried about the holder, find one that's around the same cert number. And take a look at what the real thing. If you Google like a PSA graded whatever, you'll be able to see the cases. Same with the cards themselves. If you're not familiar with what the texture is supposed to look like, fake cards almost never get the texture right. If the shine is like a weird oil spill kind of looking thing, there's that. It kind of stands out. There's signs to look for. The more Pokemon cards you look at, the more easily you can kind of identify that stuff. Rails. Inside the case, you will see 2 vertical and horizontal lines of plastic that hold the card in place with a taper at the end. If these are absent or missing the taper, reject the trade. So we got the little holdy lines. 90-degree angles all around the card is a transparent section of the case. The corners here should come to a perfect... Oh, no, I take it back. Apparently, they did have it in here. This is a great point, especially for, like, if they're going to fall for anything, it's going to be, like, the Zhao style, like, direct molded case. Maybe a real label and a fake card, that kind of thing. If the corners are rounded or not crisp, reject the trade. Nice. Okay, so this is important. That's good that they have that on there. I take it back. Blacklight test. Shine a blacklight on the front PSA label. So if you guys don't have a blacklight, go buy one on Amazon. They're like $5. You can click on the affiliate link, the Amazon affiliate link in the description or in the link tree before you do. If you want to support the channel at the same time, always appreciate it. If you want to buy groceries and you want to click on that beforehand, also mega appreciated and much preferred to trying to send me money or anything like that. It's if it's something that you're buying anyway, if it's something you find useful, that's always nice. But blacklight, jeweler's loop, both very inexpensive things that you can pick up. I always suggest that everyone does so. You're buying, like, it's the same with like sleeves, the same thing with binders and stuff like that. Buy fresh, new, nice stuff to put your cards in. The cards are very expensive. So make sure you're putting them in good stuff. Make sure you get a nice clean play mat that if you're handling cards on, so that you're not rubbing it around on the desk, putting scratches on it, that sort of thing. The white space on the label should not reflect the black light. If the strip glows, reject the trade. So I would imagine that the black light stuff has changed with the labels over time. Like, they're drastically different. There's like the hologram. There's all kinds of stuff that has been added over time. Lighthouse label. So I don't know if they automatically reject like an older cert, and then you'd have to go. You get to recase it before you bring it into GameStop for them to give you $2.70 for it. Lighthouse label using a jeweler's loop. Ooh, baby, that's technical. Examine the lighthouse label on the front and rear of the label. In the reflective area, PSA or CLCT NASDAQ is visible mixed into the background. Okay, so maybe this is like the older ones have the PSA and the newer ones have CLCT. I'm not an expert in which versions of which, but also if we had this come up in conversation in the Discord recently, if you have a card, if you're shopping for a card and it's an older cert and there's no picture on the PSA website, it kind of sucks. They should have had pictures there all along, even if they weren't high def, whatever they might be. It sucks it's not there because it's always good to check it. If it's a significant value, it's good to give it a little look, make sure it's not stolen. I guess you can still tell if it's not stolen, but to give it a look and see whether someone's selling on eBay and they have shitty pictures or they didn't take a picture of the back or anything like that. To look up the cert and see clear scans front and back. Typically PWCC, the scans are better, but sometimes they got dirt and debris all over the card. So you can refer back to like the PSA or the CGC or whatever images to make sure if it's dirt or if it's on the actual card itself, that sort of thing. But if you can't, pro tip to the extreme, just type in the cert number into Google, and usually if it's a popular enough card or if it's a more expensive card, it's probably been on there. It's probably been sold or listed or whatever, some record of it online. And if you can't find it there, you might be kind of SOL. Just make sure that the pictures you get are good. Make sure that it's not stolen, and make sure that you can tell if there's any flaws on the card itself. All right, we got the blacklight test. Shine a blacklight on the back PSA label. You should see 6 PSA logos appear around PSA logo on the left side. If there are not 3 logos above and 3 logos below the main logo, reject the trade. I don't know if that was always the case. Maybe you guys can let me know down below. Any of you guys that have been PSA bandits for years and years and or have old and new labels and have blacklighted the crap out of them. Let me know. But be careful. Label alone, again, you got to know, you got to be looking at everything here because the label can be real. The holder can be fake. The holder, if it's fake, can have a fake label as well. I don't think there's any scenario where you have a real holder and a fake label. But yeah, you never know. It's good to take a look at it all. It's good to be familiar with all of it, especially getting into the pricey stuff. Tampering as well. I have yet to see, other than like the odd case where they didn't quite sonically weld the thing back together properly. Typically, it's pretty easy to tell when a PSA slab has been tampered with because it'll internally crack up. It'll look all frosty where the joints are. Pretty common stuff. Or if somebody was trying to pry it apart, you might see little marks or indentations of where they were trying to put a blade in or something like that. But again, just because it isn't tampered or it doesn't look like it's been tampered with doesn't mean that you shouldn't be checking the above. I'm somewhat impressed by like the instructions here. I mean, I don't know if I have full confidence in like everyone going through this and like practicing it that it's hired. Because I'm sure there's like some sort of, well, I don't know if there'd be like modern Pokemon tutorials or training or anything like that. Like, I feel like there hasn't been because a lot of the people that are working there, or maybe there is tutorial, but it's just not relevant to whatever's coming out because a lot of people don't know what set is in stock or coming out or what they just received. They're like, oh yeah, we got the purple box. Okay, does the one with the purple one with the orange dude on it? And they're like, yeah. Okay, I'll be in. And again, like typically, other than like deals or certain like products or stuff like that, GameStop is not really a great option in terms of if you're trying to like buy products. Other than like for the exclusive stuff, for the promo stuff, it was a little bit more of a better option during the pandemic when you couldn't get stuff elsewhere, and they kind of kept their prices at what they usually are. They didn't kind of inflate them because of the market going wild. So, all right, smooth and sealed around the outside. Yeah, we know that. And then if you feel glue or foreign substances, reject the trade. So if you feel excess plastic, reject the trade. If the case opens, reject the trade. Yeah, that's all good information. I'm surprised there's not something here. Stained. Okay. There's nothing here about anything about like sun faded stuff. So if somebody like has something that's sun faded, maybe they trade it in. Maybe that's the exploit that people will try. Examine the case visually from all angles. If the case is stained or discolored, reject the trade. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if it's like scratched up or anything like that, you would think that there would be instructions on there too, just because. Is PSA going to send it in to get recased, or are they going to polish like the scratches out of the case itself? Probably not. Maybe Maybe we'll go back to the time. We'll go back to like the 90s, like the video rental store kind of era where they'll like resurface discs. I guess they probably would have done it there too. Or maybe they still do. I don't know. Let me know if you're a GameStopper and if you resurface stuff. Reject the trade. Examine the label visually on the front and back. If there appears to be foreign ink, chemical residue, or oil on the label, reject the trade. Yeah, I haven't seen too many. I don't know if I've even seen any at this point in time where anyone tried to, I guess, remove the ink and like change the label. That'd be interesting. They changed the grade. They changed it from a PSA 7 to a 10 or something. They try to remove the 8. I don't think that's a very common thing, but it wouldn't surprise me. If there's a way to do it, people will find it. So be careful for that as well. A lot of the time with the fake labels, or if there's anything fishy going on, fake slab, fake label, the text, the font won't be quite right, or it'll be the wrong size, or it'll be like in the wrong spot. Like it won't be spaced out the proper way. So it's all stuff to look for. I'm sure they don't want to get too in detail here with the collectibles checklist, but I think it's a good base for somebody that's looking to test for this stuff, to look for this stuff. They should probably have like images or like to go along with it. Maybe they do. Maybe we're only seeing part of this. It's interesting nonetheless. We'll have to see how it develops. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll try. Oh my God, this is a long video. Can you tell I took a couple days of being sick and not talking? I've been itching to record here. Thanks for tuning in. Join the Discord. If all of this stuff is new to you, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully we get some insight in the comments to see what you guys think about the whole Veriswap thing. Is it worth it? Do you use it? Would you use it? Would you use it now? Would you stop using it? And then with the GameStop stuff, as always, I think it's interesting. Again, the GameStop stuff is definitely not something for me. I don't want to grade cards. I don't want to bring them to GameStop and try to get cashed out on them. I don't know. It's something. See you next time.